Howdy, Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment to talk to you about the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app for both iPhones as well as Google devices. You can actually download this app, put it on your phone, or just go to the website if you're not an app person. And if you ever want to go visit some of these great locations that we've been talking about in the podcast, this will give you a great information about the place before you go. And you'll be able to find other wineries in the area. So if you want to make a day of it, go see several other places as well. You can search by region. You can sort the listings, find ones that are kid-friendly, family-friendly, even ones that host RVs. All kinds of different sortable listings you can find there in that app and on the website. You can find other things as well in the area like restaurants, accommodations, maybe events that are going on at the different wineries. So it's your one-stop resource that goes hand in hand with this podcast to be able to find those great places to go visit. So check out the Texas Wine Lover website. It's txwinelover.com. Or go to their app. You can find it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store as well. Enjoy your trips among the vines and use that app. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. Welcome to episode 47 of the Texas Under Vine podcast. And today I have a very special interview for you and bring you a location that is really important to many of the wineries in the Texas wine industry. They are actually a vineyard who has now added on a winery to produce wines from their grapes. Yes, I'm talking about Farmhouse Vineyards. And I'm looking forward to bringing you all the great information about this really special place. Now, Katy Jane Seaton is one of the proprietors of Farmhouse Vineyards, and she gets to share with you her amazing journey that brought her to Texas and the Texas wine industry and what she's done there with this amazing location at Farmhouse Vineyards. Farmhouse Vineyards was actually started back in 2010. It is currently owned and operated by two couples, Tracy and Anthony Ferguson, and Nick and Katy Jane Seaton. Originally, they were just planning on planting grapes and selling those to other wineries. However, after Katy Jane Seaton became part of the family, they were planting a less well-known grape called Malvasia Bianca, and there came a season in 2014 where they tried to sell that to some of the wineries here in Texas, and a lot of people didn't even know what it was, so they didn't want to purchase, and they were left with it on their hands. So Katy Jane decided, why don't we just make some wine out of this ourselves, and we'll show people what this grape can do. And so they created the housewife wine, is what she called it, in 2014, and it became hugely popular. She actually commissioned Tim Drake to be their winemaker, to make this lovely varietal, and it took off. They began producing this housewife wine, and that kind of became their signature there at Farmhouse Vineyards. And since then, they've greatly expanded their wine portfolio, and now they even have two tasting rooms. One in Johnson City in the Texas Hill Country, and another one up in the Texas High Plains, where the vineyard actually resides. So they have one called the White House Parker Tasting Room in Brownfield, Texas, and the vineyard itself is actually in Meta, Texas. Now, for those of you that maybe not be familiar with our Texas accents, and you saw it on a map, you would think it was Meadow, Texas, but of course, all the people from West Texas know it's pronounced Meta, Texas. And that's where the actual vineyard is. Brownfield is not far away where the White House Parker tasting room is. They even have another addition there called the Armory, where they have some barrel storage. They have some event space and their offices now located there. And of course, their tasting room that they have in Johnson City, which actually started as a little Airstream trailer they call it the Tipsy Trailer, which is still there today, but on a new location. So now they have a new location there in downtown Johnson City where they have this cute little farmhouse tasting room with the Tipsy Trailer sitting right outside. You can't miss it when you drive past it in Johnson City. Now, back to the vineyard. They have over 168 acres of vineyards. They now have multiple kind of locations there spread out, and they not only grow wine grapes, they farm other crops as well. Things like cotton and peanuts, watermelons, pumpkins, black-eyed peas. They even raise sheep there as well. So they are truly an agricultural operation that does their best in all of these different varieties, from the ground all the way to your table. They actually opened their tasting rooms in 2017. The Johnson City one has actually moved from its original location, but they started those, like I said, in 2017. So they've been in operation for several years now. And here in Texas, the wine industry is very interesting, more so than many other regions, even all over the world, in that we have what we like to call a bifurcated wine industry. What I mean by that is that we're one of the few locations where most of the wine grapes are actually grown in the Texas High Plains. Maybe 80% or so are actually grown in the Texas High Plains, which has incredible soil and weather and terroir for growing those grapes. But a majority of the wineries are actually in other parts of the state, specifically around the Texas Hill Country and in North Texas and some other locations. But a lot of the wineries, especially here in the Hill Country, get their grapes from 6 to 7 hours away in the Texas High Plains and have them brought in by truck to the actual tasting rooms and wineries in the Hill Country or other places around the state. So you kind of have this two-part location. And so Farmhouse Vineyards is uniquely positioned in that because they are a vineyard. They provide to many of the wine destinations that I brought to you in this podcast, as well as others throughout the state. And so they're only one of a handful of actual wine destinations that can say they are truly 100% estate wines. All of their wines, all of the grapes from their wines come directly from their own vineyard. They don't need to source anywhere else. And so they are truly a wine grower and wine maker in that way. And of course, it's all 100% Texas wine. And since they grow even more than just wine grapes, you can be assured that if you go to their tasting rooms or even some of their wine club events, you're going to be tasting amazing food products that they have brought directly from their farms. And so they are truly a farm to table type of operation. And so you get to taste incredible food as well as great wines that they are producing themselves. Heck, even as a member of their wine club, you'll find that you even get some signature farm products from other things that they grow with your wine club shipment. That's not something you're going to get in any other place. And to top it off, they even have some lodging available, both in the Hill Country as well as in the High Plains, that you can rent if you're wanting to go visit them and maybe make a trip out of it to go visit even other great wine destinations as well. You can actually rent lodging from them as well. And all that information, of course, is on their website. So you can go there to find that. And when I was there, I actually went to their Johnson City tasting room here in the Texas Hill Country and was lucky enough to sit down with Katy Jane Seaton to be able to hear her story, to hear her commitment to the land, her commitment to the wine grapes, to her family, and to all the people in their organization. She's got a fun story. She's very well-spoken, and so you're going to really enjoy this interview. I had so much fun interviewing her, and I know you're going to enjoy listening to it. So without further ado, let's hear from her. All right, well, I'm here at Farmhouse Vineyards with Katy Jane Seaton, and so I want to turn the attention on you and tell me a little bit about yourself. So what got you into the wine industry?
It was an accident.
Oh, I love accidents.
In college at New Mexico State. So my wine experience began in the Mesilla Valley, which is where wine began as a birthplace here, in the United States. many 130 years before California. I am passionate.
1600s, yeah.
Passionate about getting that message out. The only reason we have wine is because of the Mexican culture. That's a passion point for me. I'm just going to spit it out. But I was in college and I had a professor ask if I wanted to be the t-shirt girl at the Las Cruces Wine and Chili War Festival, which is huge festival formats that they have both Labor Day and Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And so
And then where did it go from there?
I wound up being the executive director of their association a couple years later, again, by accident. I always thought I would end up in the Quarter Horse Association or the Cattlemen's Association. I'm not fit for wine. And I'll tell you why. Everything I think comes right across my face and soon out my mouth. And that doesn't suit this industry very well when you get down into the politics of it all.
So you're from New Mexico, West Texas area?
I'm originally from the Great Northwest.
Great Northwest.
I was born in Washington, and then we moved back to my mom's hometown in the 8th grade. So I say born in Washington, raised in Oregon. But I consider my home wine region Walla Walla.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Walla Walla, Washington. And so, I've been in agriculture my entire life, and wine is agriculture. And that's another point that I'm really passionate about because I think it's the most, as a crop, we are the most heavily labor-intensive crop and the most regulated end product and the most mismarketed lifestyle. So
interesting.
It comes natural, but I still, after 22 years, I'm surprised on certain days.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then that makes for a very easy, well, not easy, I guess, but more interesting job when you get to be, you're constantly surprised.
Yeah.
It's not monotonous.
That is true.
Sure.
There's no one day the same. I can tell you, Tracy and I, our whole brand, you set out with a list of what you're going to do, and that's just when God and the public laughs, and you'll do 74 things on the opposite side of the room that day, So it just is what it is.
Was the phrase about the best laid plans,
Yes, yes, 100%.
Definitely falls, huh?
Yeah.
Well, tell me about the history of Farmhouse Vineyards then. So how did you go from being with the Wine and Food Foundation? Is that what you said? Or
just New Mexico Wine Growers Association.
Mexico Wine Growers Association. You want to get that right?
Yes.
How did you go from being with the New Mexico Wine Growers Association to now the owner of Farmhouse Vineyards? Tell me the story of that path.
It's long.
Okay. Well, we got time. People want to hear. Let's hear your story.
Okay. And I have a tendency to talk in circles. So if you do have listeners tuning in, they should probably get a glass of something.
Go ahead and pour yourself something. Here we go.
So my father was a bronze sculptor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he did really well. And when he was interviewed, people wanted him to give his dossier and just really, lay it out there. And he was kind of a tall, soft-spoken, simple man, cowboy. And he would say, I've kept 4 women in horses and shoes for 35 years. And then he would sit down. And it was like, if you didn't get the enormity of that, then he didn't have time to explain it, right?
Simple, right?
So his clientele was largely in Texas because high-end art usually follows the oil market, right? Teachers and plumbers and farmers, we're not collecting high-end art. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time as a family here in this wonderful state. And I idolized Dallas, the show. I did. I loved the entrepreneurship. I loved the beautiful people. I loved, all of it. And just kind of that, elevated Western lifestyle, if you will. And when we would come here, the people lived up to it. Texans were gracious and full of bravado, and everybody had an idea, and everybody was striking out on something. And it was really appealing to me. And so as a little girl, I always said, when I grow up, if I'm not married and I don't have children, I'm going to pie-eye to Texas as fast as I could. So I took a couple detours.
Okay.
One of them being going back to college later on in life in New Mexico at New Mexico State, where I had a professor ask about, did I want to do this? And I showed up to the Wine and Chili War Festival at the fairgrounds, and they were selling really ugly old posters. Not ugly, I shouldn't say that. Posters were great. They were selling them in just the packs with old white Yilden T-shirts on plastic tables, right? Because at that time, the committee was all men.
Yeah.
Grape growers. So I spent the night.
And probably volunteers at that.
100%. Spent the night staging. I also learned another most valuable lesson in the world of events. Here, we could talk about that. Spent the night staging and decorating and We ended up selling $7,000 worth of merchandise, which, was huge.
Unheard of.
Unheard of at that time. And they said, do you want a job? And I love to work. Working is my love language. It's my identity. It's probably unhealthy how much I like to be engaged in other things versus just my life. And so that is what led me down the path. When I graduated, and again, my dad had a massive heart attack, passed away. I went home, spent a year with my mom, and then was like, gosh, you really should tune into that Texas dream. Came back and was vying for a position with Rodeo Austin.
Okay.
Yes, I'd met them at the NFR. I was the marketing girl for the Buck and Horse and Bull Sale at that time, and on a contract basis. And so they said, well, we don't quite have a position open yet, but we do have this 100X tent. We're trying to merge elite sponsors with the top cowboys in a casual conversational setting at this 100X tent.
Okay.
So I said yes. And they looked around, like always, and they had local barbecue and local beer. And I said, where's the wine?
Yeah.
They said, oh, Texas wine. Oh, they made the face. You know the face.
Oh, yeah.
They made the face, and we just wouldn't know to start. So I Googled and came across Texas Wine and Grape Growers.
Okay. Yeah.
Called, gave my pitch, got the standard pitch back at that time from the director, Dakota Hazelwood. We can't donate wine. It's illegal, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I understand, but I'm willing to bet maybe underneath your desk right now, there is a case of wine that's not good enough to give to anyone you know and not bad enough to throw away. Can I just have that? And I heard her say, what's your name again? And then there was some typing and Googling. Yeah. And she said, do you want a job? And I said, no, I
want wine. I don't want a job.
I loathe the wine business. No, I do. I loathe the wine business. I loathe any type of setting where people use a product to make somebody else feel bad or inadequate about themselves. And so, then I was trying to gig it in Austin doing some other things. And about a month and a half later, I thought, I'm running out of money. I wonder if that job is still available. And so I called and interviewed, and I was the first executive director for Texas Hill Country Winery.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, May of 2005. So when I started with them, there was 16, grew to 33. And when I resigned and left and went to work for Becker Vineyards full time, I think they were going into the 15 number. But January, after a couple of years, we needed help. There had been some growth. We had put Wine Trail on the internet. People forget about the internet. Life is so convenient now.
Exactly.
But when
the things we take for granted.
Correct. When I first started, they were hand filling out and hand mailing out, Wine Trail tickets for the Christmas trail and the blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's how I began to know and love January. She was employed with Flat Creek. And when I would send out emails with instructions about what we were supposed to do for this said trail, she was one of 4 that would actually respond and or follow through. So when it came time to hire somebody that was, fastidious and had follow through, we sought her out. And that was years and years ago.
Yeah, and she's doing a fantastic job with it now.
Then on a trip, when I went to work for Becker, growing up in the Northwest and being around other wine regions through travel, the growers are the rock stars. Not to take anything away from the winemaking rock stars, but it's a very two-part mechanism that really blends in the end, right? And if you don't have good fruit in the vineyard, you're never going to have good wine. You can have, good fruit in the vineyard and bad winemaking and still end up. But it's really hard to mess up premier fruit if you just let science and nature and God take its course. So I noticed, and I think the narrative was just naturally born out of the hill country being within an hour of San Antonio and an hour of Austin, and the tourism when we didn't have the quality fruit necessarily and the quality of winemaking happening at every place. Because we've got 1983 wines that are gorgeous, but you got to know where to find them, And so I hate it when they say Texas wine wasn't good then, because good and bad wine is made everywhere.
Right.
And vintages are notable for a reason. And just because one guy out of 7 guys was doing it right doesn't mean, one bad apple.
Exactly.
But I went to work for Becker. They then at the time, and still do, purchase the most amount of Texas fruit of any winery in the state, but that marketing narrative never made it out the door. And that's what I was passionate about. So we were headed to the High Plains to photograph their growers. I wanted to do full body photographs. It got waylaid. They're only half size. And to have downstairs in the cellar and in their library. And on that trip, I met my now husband. We had a 4-hour conversation and we eloped 42 days later.
Wow.
We never dated. And we'll both tell you, we don't recommend it.
But it works for you and your story.
It worked for us. I've always been a cliff jumper. And I just listened to my gut. God gave women an intuition, and the best thing you can do in your life is dial into that. And so that took me from being the said marketing girl to, 25% of a lot of debt.
Yeah.
And trying to build a brand. And so Farmhouse was born out of a winery walking a fruit contract.
Okay.
Because we couldn't give Malvasia Bianca away at that time. We were the first in Texas to plant it. Nobody could pronounce it. They didn't
even know what they were going to use it for.
They assumed it was another orange muscat that some grower was trying to pad onto the truck. You take the Mervet, or you take the Tempranillo.
Then you got to take this too.
Then you got to get on this white contract too, which was, how things were kind of being done at that time. And so we made one wine called Housewife. It was a joke. I was anybody's housewife. And I knew that they knew that when the marketing girl married a grape grower and now they're in the wine business, gross, right? Like, could you get kitschier? So we started kitschy. We put it in a little blue bottle. We gave it a kitschy name. And Tim Drake is our winemaker, always has been, always will be. And he knows his way around. And so the wine was lovely. And that set us on our course. We went from 1 wine to 3 to 9 to 2 tasting rooms.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just the talkative one. It's very imperative that people hear me when I say I married into that land and that planting. They had already done that on their own and established that, but they're just West Texas, born and raised, Church of Christers, modest to the hilt, and want zero attention. So the 3 people who've done the hard work deserve more credit than I do. I can sell ice to an Eskimo. That's all. That's the only thing I got.
Yeah.
I had a hell of a Rolodex, and I'm not shy. But those 3 people, Tracy and Anthony Ferguson, and my husband, Nick Seaton, are who deserved the credit.
You took the focus there, though. You took the raw materials and then got it focused into the product.
It's not hard to tell. It's not hard to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to tell stories about hardworking, wonderful people.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's a privilege. They planted the first vineyard in 2010.
That's what I was just about to ask. So you're married into the family now. You got the vineyard. So the vineyard was planted in 2010, you said?
Yes. So the first vineyard, which was originally a 20-acre planting, and that's the Farmhouse Vineyard.
Okay.
Was planted in 2010.
Okay.
They added on in 12.
And that's in Brownfield, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I showed up in 13. Actually, the vineyard itself, headquarter vineyard, is out in Meta.
Okay.
It's Meadow on the sign. And Meta.
Meta.
Yeah, Meta. So the first
West
vineyard was
Texas.
there. Yeah. And then we began converting different farms from cotton, to grapes, like everybody up there. And so I arrived in 13. We planted in 14, 15, 16, 17. And then again, I think in 22, maybe. And then we just have entered into a lease purchase agreement for a 4th site, Buenos Aires, because it comes with beautiful lodging. It's a different sandier site. And my husband originally farmed that back in Peanuts.
Oh, wow, okay.
Back in the day. So it's really beneficial to our family to keep that land together. It's congruent with another circle that we have.
And keep it in the wine industry, Texas.
Correct. Yeah.
This has got a storied history there as well.
And we opened, again, like I said, we never planned on making wine. I don't want to make wine. I hate the wine business. Hate the wine business. But it was a means, that we needed to do so that we didn't just blow that premium fruit. Funny story about couldn't give Malvasia away.
Yeah.
We made that first wine, and then we were like, everyone said, well, where'd you get that? We'd been hiding this. We'd been hiding, and we're like, we didn't hide it from you.
All that stuff you wouldn't buy from us?
Correct. Sure, drinking it. So, yeah, that was really entertaining. But then we opened our 2 tasting rooms in September.
Okay.
October, November of 2017.
Okay.
And we originally started with a trailer down here over on Avenue, on the side of what was then 290 Winery.
Right.
And people just thought it was a burrito wagon or a coffee wagon, even though we had a 27-foot sign that said wine tasting. It was a little too kitschy.
Okay.
At the time. So when this little house became open, we moved here, and it also turns out people need bathrooms, they need restrooms, whatever. When you farm all day, you're like,
Yeah.
you can't stop to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
You
I
don't
don't have
stop to eat
time for that.
or go to the bathroom. So, but it looks like our house up there. This is a square Craftsman, and what we call White House Parker up there is a long rambling ranch.
Cool. Yeah, we were here sitting in Johnson City tasting room right now, but you have the tasting room there. And the Armory, tell me what is the Armory?
The Armory is the latest thing that we added 2 years ago now, which is crazy. It's our corporate offices. So we were able to finally have a place, an office, because, we would just set up and work on a tailgate or at our homes or in the tasting room. And as the traffic began to pick up there, you're deep into a spreadsheet and a wine club member stops by. Of course, you want to visit with them.
Sure.
Or what I really talk about.
Do a tasting impromptu.
Yeah. What I really talk about is, we would get our papers out, we'd get our laptops out, set the alarm, to 3:30, got to go grab kids. So we'd make our phone calls in the morning, and then we'd make our decisions, and all of a sudden the alarm goes off. Oh, crap. So we'd shove all the papers and the laptop back in the bag, and we'd go pick up kids, and then everybody we called that morning would return our calls. So then we're digging out papers. Well, this is what our production's going to be, and this is the fruit we don't have sold. And so all of our things had, McDonald's drive-through ketchup stains on them, or Chick-fil-A sauce
packets.
on it. Yeah, for years. You might get a contract that had some Chick-fil-A sauce or had rolled around on the bottom of my mom's car. And so for us to have actual offices, a place of business.
Yeah.
And it has another boardroom, and we can move our production. We moved it's our barrel barn and case goods storage.
Okay.
So we're paying 3 times the cost of what it should because we didn't have a winery. We custom crush.
Okay.
So we gig it at a custom crush facility, or we make in-house with one of our clients. They love doing. It's a little more integrated. And so we just were all over the place, and that allowed us to centralize. And then it's got this, it's a 15,000 square foot building. And so now it allows us to have beautiful events in a climate controlled setting, which is key in West Texas. Haboob today.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what the Armory is for us.
Well, how many acres under vine do you have currently?
168.
168, okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
More than anyone should have.
Right.
My husband, his famous saying is, there's easier ways to serve the Lord. Funny story. Well, coming from a marketing girl and always having represented other brands, I knew the things I wanted to and wanted not to do. And one of them was to name our brand something people couldn't pronounce.
Okay.
People have such a romantic and idealistic way of what this business really is.
Yeah.
So when they name their vineyard, they're like, it's blah, 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 which is a real pain in the ass to pronounce, frankly. And that doesn't do you any favors.
Right.
And so we knew that we wanted to be simple because we want the working man to show up too, and his lovely wine drinking wife. But my 2 farmers, my brother-in-law Anthony and my husband Nicholas, were sitting at the kitchen counter, squirming, trying to get the hell out back to the field, squirming like, this woman, why is she making us have meetings, And I just was like, we need to be cohesive. It needs to be represented and be truth. The number one thing you can do, if you look at brands that are truly successful, it just told their truth. Then you don't have to worry about polishing.
A story
anything.
in the name.
Yep. And so we had been given a wedding gift by one of our dear friends, and it was one of those kind of prefabbed, vintage-looking sign, and it said, "Welcome to the Seaton Farmhouse." And Anthony looks up. My husband likes to remember that it was him, but I have better memory for details. Anthony looks up and says, "How about farmhouse?" In kind of a sarcastic, like, I got to get out of here. And I thought, oh my gosh, the 3 of you were raised in farmhouses. I was raised in a ranch house. That's authentic as all get out.
Yeah.
And so, we can do this. We can, and that's great, And it evokes immediately an image of who we are and what we do. And so we said yes. And then we were super blessed that about 2 months after our inception, this lovely woman named Joanna Gaines showed up everywhere. And she started saying shiplap and farmhouse chic this and farmhouse that. And they just served as unpaid ambassadors for our brand.
I love it.
You can go to Hobby Lobby and Tractor Supply and get a sign.
Restoration Hardware.
Yes, you can get a sign with our name on it. And we didn't have anything to do with it, right? And so that was just one of those divine timing moments. And I am a grape grower and a brand ambassador, but my number one job in this world is to be a mom, right?
And we welcome McLean to
welcome McLean.
to
and
the
McLean
podcast.
is not normally in the 8-year-old fetal position, but we had a rough
Not feeling
night.
well today, yeah.
So
No
we
worries.
can do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Well, so the normal question I usually ask at this point is almost kind of silly to ask, but I usually ask a lot of the wine destinations, where do you source your fruit?
Yes.
Pretty obvious for you. You do everything. Do you do everything from your own estate? I guess with 168 acres,
Yes.
you have plenty of fruit to work with
have
without
plenty
having
of
to
fruit.
get anything anywhere else.
No,
so.
we're 100% on estate fruit. And I didn't realize that wasn't as common. Or I didn't realize the need, I guess, until Sarah Garrett, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Started really
From Serrano wine.
from Serrano Weiss.
Yeah.
They incubated with us. We reached out to them. I reached out to her when I was producing the Texas Winemakers docuseries.
Okay.
Because they were moving to Texas, and our Anemic had connected us.
Okay.
And so they bought some Riesling from us, and I just really enjoyed her perception, the way she talks about wines, her key points. And she was like, you guys, you're one of like 5 that's 100% estate.
Yeah.
And it just, when something's in your own backyard, I mean, to me, like, how could people not know?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do they not know our story? And so I guess it became then that we started talking about it more.
Yeah.
But the definition of estate, honestly, too, you have to really learn that, is it's any vineyard that is being managed by the winery and being paid for, in its totality, despite the location. So when people want to bag on brands that may only have a vanity vineyard down here, because they don't think it's a premier growing site, or they don't have the capital, but they are willing to support and source fruit from the high plains and support our families and families like us,
Yeah.
they don't deserve to be diminished in any way, because, hey, that's their estate vineyard. If they're on an entire block, if they're on an entire site, So I wish that's one of my kind of problems with Texas wine, is it's not particular about the vernacular. We're a brand. We're not a winery.
Yeah.
We don't have trains,
Yeah.
right? We are a brand who retains a full-time winemaker. We have 2 tasting rooms and a barrel barn and case goods storage, but we don't ferment.
Yeah.
And we don't drink. And so I wish more people understood the correct terminology, because it's important in understanding the art and act of wine itself.
Yeah.
And
then for production, then you said that you had normally done custom crush with other places or with the clients, but with your armory now, were you saying you have production facilities there?
So we don't ferment, we don't have drain, but we do have our barrels there, so we can work our barrels there, and our case goods storage is there, and then we bottle there for
Okay.
mobile bottling.
Okay.
So it's like, 70-80% is done with us there.
Yeah. You just have that first part
It's
of the
just that-
fermentation.
It's just that first press
Yeah.
and go.
A few weeks of that,
Yeah.
and then the rest is all done there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. What are your favorite wines as a owner and assisting the winemaker and so forth? What are some of your favorite wines to work with?
Well, I'll tell you, beautiful red blends, aged red wines was the hill I was going to die on.
Yeah.
Because after representing everybody else, and again, Walla Walla, it's what I consider my home wine region, I saw a lot of, and I understand why, because you need the capital, because
Yeah.
it costs money to age wine.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of reds being turned out in 14 months and 18 months.
Really young.
Really young. And they had an audience out of loyalty, because people want to support Texas wine. But when you brought real wine drinkers to Texas, that was a real turnoff for them, and it was a disconnect. People wanting to try Texas wine, trying it, and their feedback and their reviews were, it's young, it's all these things, where
Too angular, all
yes,
that stuff.
time would have just done it well. And Tim is masterful. Tim makes 30-year aged red wine,
Yeah.
and has for years prior to his arrival in Texas. And so the proof was in the pudding. Proof was in the bottle already. I knew we could do it because I knew our fruit quality. But it's expensive. And 4 years into it, people were sick to death of tasting Malvasia Bianca 5 ways.
Right.
We made it bone dry. We made it off dry.
Semi-sweet.
Yes, sparkling. And, diabetic sweet. Yeah. So and we had all these people saying, we really want to support you, but we're sick to death of drinking white wine 5 ways. And so we had kind of a knockdown, drag out meeting with tears. We had lots of tears in the beginning. That was like, we need a horse that will ride. We need a horse that will make some money.
Yeah.
And that's how Cultivated was born. It's our only red wine that is tank, right? Seasonal barrel time. And it's a bathtub gin. It's a hodgepodge of our fruit of what was unsold or uncontracted, and largely dolcetto. At that time, we were our own house. We had two Italians was all. And so it was born and it sold and people loved it. And we saw some cash flow, not profit. Do not mistake cash flow for profit, for the love of God.
They're two separate things.
They are two very different things. And they both will keep you up at night, but they are not related. And so that is what brought us down the road of our single varietal wines, our cultivated series, and those things. But aged red wines are my heart.
Yeah.
I'll tell you live here long enough and you get old and your hormones kick in and suddenly you're like, listen, let me talk to you about gorgeous whites and rosé.
Where's the rosé, right?
Yeah, so we make I like to think we make white wines and rosés for red wine drinkers.
Oh, okay.
Because I come from an environment with tall trees and fireplaces.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I want a big, beautiful wine, but I love the art of the blend. I understand and respect single varietal and who it is, but I don't know. The vineyard itself is so collaborative, from the soil and the sun and the way that the vines are female and they're in a chorus line. I talk about picture the Rockettes. A vineyard ought to operate like the Rockettes do. Yeah. And when it does, it sings.
There you go.
It sings and it dances. And that translates to the glass. And I can get real geeky with you on that, but we're not going to, right? We talked about
next time.
We're not going to. So yes, that harmony in your glass is the thing that makes people go, wow, what is this? Like you did in your first time.
Absolutely.
What is this? And my first moment for that, I've never been overseas. I'm like, I'm 20-something years of doing this. Juarez doesn't count, right? Juarez in Canada don't count. And 20 years of doing this. And I just am still so enamored with what God does, what the vineyard can do naturally when it's cared for properly, and how that translates into a glass when it's in the hands of the right person.
Yeah.
Namely Tim Drake for us. So
yeah. What are some of your most popular wines with customers? What are the ones that you feel like every time you release them, they're just selling out and you're constantly trying to keep them in stock?
We have an audience for every wine.
Okay.
And this is maddening.
Yeah.
From the bookkeeping side.
Planning.
For my GM sister-in-law, who is wildly unpaid, untitled, underappreciated, undervalued, underpromoted. We do this every couple of years. We sit down and say, gosh, we never meant to grow this big. We never meant to have these many wines. Let's kill the skew. Let's run the reports and say, who's not performing? And they're in a dead heat.
Really?
Yeah.
All from different customers.
Yes, which is, again, I think a testament to Tim making such a variety of wines that have a following, So we'll rest a label for a while, but we inevitably end up bringing it back. It's crazy.
They'll have their groupies. You have different groupies.
Maddening. They totally do. I love that you say that, because our wines, we have a lot of collaboration with artists.
Yeah.
And then each wine has a playlist. So yeah, but they do. They all have a bunch of groupies.
That's great. Do you do any kind of like events or anything like that here on site, or they're out in
our wine club?
Brownfield?
Yeah, our wine club parties are pretty eventful. They're, we always have the music and live music and great food. And we work really hard to pair our wine club with our original one with products from the farm. We want to educate people. That we joke that we bait you in with the wine, but we beat you over the head with agriculture while you're here.
As you should.
As you should.
Yes, you should know where it comes from.
Yeah, so that wine club comes, with black-eyed peas in the fall, things that we grow, or our cotton honey, or a wine jam, because we just really want people to understand about the agriculture. So yeah, we do events. It's hard to hear. Our footprint here is
sure
deliberately small, right? I mean, we started in a 33 square foot
travel trailer.
Airstream. Yeah. Because it's not about us. It's about us being the growers for the top 20 wineries in Texas.
Yeah.
So I think it's really bad manners when you've been a grower all these years and somebody has paid you and put your name on their bottle, and then suddenly that grower decides to plop right down in the middle.
Yeah, and compete with you.
And build a giant retail and compete with you. I think that's really bad manners.
Yeah.
And it may not be popular amongst some of my peers, but I don't care. It's just my opinion. So we're deliberate in being small, and we want you to taste our fruit as low to the ground as you can, because we have zero minimum. I mean, we're like super minimal intervention with our wines. And then we want to hand you that list that says, here's our client list. Go see them, And we do. It's on every chalkboard. It's on the website. It's in our socials. So
that was one of the things I loved when I came up.
We are.
Because you do service and you provide grapes for so many places, I loved being able to go up and look at and not only do you just have a listing on the chalkboard, you do their logos and everything. I mean, you really give a tribute to the people that you're in cooperation with as we push that Texas wine industry forward. And
they're the reason that our family and 30 other families eat.
And that's, I love that. Okay, so I'm sure listeners now are starting to get excited, wanting to come out to try things out.
I hope.
Whether they're in Johnson City or whether they're up in the High Plains area to come visit. So let's talk about what can they expect when they come in for a tasting.
Hospitality.
Well, what does that look like? So when somebody does a tasting, I've been to a lot of places. Some have a set flight of wines. Some allow you to choose the wines you want. Some have different types of tastings for different things. What does a tasting look like here at Farmhouse?
Sure. So we do have a set list. We usually try and only keep 3 flights on the bar.
Okay.
Because too many options is over. It can be overwhelming to even decide to come out, right? Hopefully you've utilized the Texas Hill Country Wineries website.
Yep.
Or your podcast.
Yeah, the Texas Wine Lover app, all those.
Yes, all the things. And you've made this agenda. And now, in theory, you shouldn't visit more than 4 in a day.
Yes.
3 is better. But if you're a newbie, you don't know that. And you're like, look at all these. We can do 10.
Go all these places.
Yes.
Hop on the wine shuttle. Hit them all.
Exactly, yeah. So we do like to provide some framework. I sort everybody and ask our staff to sort everybody by, are you red, white, sweet, or dry? First of all, that's in the wrong order.
Okay.
But it will stop you in your tracks.
Yep.
Because it makes people think, right? And so that's the first way we sort you. And everything is like how we sort bucking horses or how we sort cattle. I mean, I can't get away from who I am.
Yeah.
So, are we sort left? Are we going to sort right? And that allows us, the next follow-up question is, if you do drink, what is it that you enjoy at home? Okay. Because we compare you. Oh, you're drinking Mayomi? Ugh. Okay. Well, we're going to start over here, but we're also going to teach you about fruit.
Right.
So, and then we change those up based on lots of things, like everyone does.
Sure.
Inventory.
Seasonality,
right? We just sip into summer as our current tasting right now. We're going to start here soon for the first time ever, a Malvasia flight only to go back to
the roots
of who we were. Because, we've got options, but we still want to talk about our flagship white. Our flagship white is
Malvasia 5 ways.
Yeah, Malvasia 5 ways. I love that. And quinoas. We were the first to plant quinoas in this. We are who brought quinoas to Texas.
Nice.
So yeah, it's important, right? That you never get too big.
Sure, absolutely. What does a tasting typically cost?
$25, and then you can do an elevated for $35.
Okay.
But we're adamant. Tracy and I are both adamant. If someone is going down that tasting sheet and they do not appear to be enjoying themselves, we want our staff, we've empowered our staff to say,
see those cues.
See the cues, read the room, and stop and say, are you liking this? Are you not? Yeah. Do you want to go drier? Do you want to go sweeter? Do you want to skip everything here? If you just drink sweet wines, then look, just let me pour you a glass. Just have a glass while these others are oohing and ahhing and sniffing and acting so fancy. Like, you don't have to dance for us, but let me pour you a glass of sweet. And we have sold more wine that way. We have created an audience that feels at home here, unintimidated, and like they can just be themselves. And you know what? They drink that sweet for 2 or 3 years, and suddenly they're like liking that dry rosé, and they'll pop right over. What kills me, they will skip 2 or 3 notches of good dry drinkable wine and land in the Syrah category. And it's like going from a golf cart to a Mazda to a Maserati.
Yeah.
And, and I just enjoy watching that happen.
The progression.
Yeah. Cultivating a palate with people.
And I think that's good for my listeners to know that, let's say you get a wine or two into it. You don't have, if you're not feeling it, you don't have to complete that flight. Just talk to the server and say, maybe I want to go a different direction. And y'all are willing to customize that and work with them.
100%.
Yeah,
that's our
great.
job.
Good for them to know. And then what are your typical operating hours, both here as well as at White House Park?
So in Brownfield, we're only open 3 days a week.
Okay.
Thursday through Saturday, just because we're farming.
Sure.
And here we're open every day.
Okay.
And I believe it's noon to 6.
Okay.
Noon to 6 during the weekdays. And then starting Friday, I think we are open at 11:30.
Okay.
Yeah. So
perfect. And they can go to the website to get all that information
100%.
as needed to.
Please do so.
I just like to usually ask.
Well, owners are not good with the details. Owners are not good with the details and the POS. That's why we have an amazing team.
I'm interviewing winemakers or back of the house people, and a lot of times when I get to these questions, they're like, I'm not really sure how much a tasting costs, or I'm not, how many wines do we have on that again? And I'm just like, that's okay. There's a website for that kind of stuff. I just like to ask it as part of the interview. So what about things like family friendly or pet friendly? If people have kids, they want to bring their dogs.
Yes. Did you see the part where my child came in and got in the fetal position on my lap? Yeah, we are 100% family oriented. We welcome you. We welcome young mothers. We welcome young, single parents who are working, looking for an activity. We welcome everybody. Red, white, blue, you name it, all the things.
All good.
Everyone is welcome here, and so is your dog. Now, they must be well-mannered. They must be leashed and well-mannered.
Pets and kids.
Pets and kids.
Well, not leashed necessarily the kids, but
unless
that's your thing.
I'll put your kid on a leash if it's climbing my walls. We reserve the right to keep them and take them for farm labor.
Okay. Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
Earn their way out.
Yeah. Yeah. If your kid cannot behave well in public,
yes,
it needs a job. And we've got jobs.
We got that in abundance. With 168 acres, you've got lots of jobs they can do.
Yeah. So, but no, we just welcome everybody. I mean, that was part of why Brownfield came into play, is because I needed to create a space where everyone was welcome.
Well, so what about like food options? So do you offer food options in the tasting room, or can people bring their own food, or what does that look like? Okay.
Both. We grow fruit. We grow food, and we grow fiber, and we grow fruit. So we're going to feed you. We're going to feed you really well. We're pretty famous for our charcuterie, just because it is ample.
Okay.
But I also, in 20 years, have watched what overserving can do, and we don't do it. But I don't know what you've drank before you got here, or what you intend to drink after.
Or what stage in people's wine journey they're on, if they've already been to 5 or 10 places.
Correct. Yes. And so we want to make sure we feed people and feed them well. And we grow food. It's important. It's important that you know where your food came from.
Right.
It's important that you understand you're probably wearing a good percentage of cotton. And if you've got any cash in your pocket, that's 75% cotton. So before you take a stance on farming issues that you know nothing about, make sure you empty your pockets and get naked.
Know where it comes from? That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Can't argue with me about what you think farmers are doing because you read something on the internet.
Right.
Until you're naked and sober and hungry.
Okay.
And then you might have a platform.
Then you might have something to talk about.
Sit down and talk to me about it.
I love it.
Yes. Food options. We do butter boards as well.
Yeah.
And and popcorn, free popcorn.
Oh, that was
popcorn is my favorite thing for many reasons. Always has been, instead of oyster cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, this is ingenious. When I was tasting it, I was like, this is a really smart thing, because everybody loves popcorn.
Yes.
I mean, everybody loves popcorn.
Everybody loves popcorn.
And you get that salt in there that really helps. That's a very smart move on your part.
When you walk in and you smell fresh popcorn, it makes you happy. Correct. The salt and the lipids around and the starch all do wonderful things for the wines.
Yeah.
Keeps little kids happy.
There you go.
And
that's smart marketing move.
If you do get a parent that is struggling and is trying to have an adult experience, that buys them sometimes 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
To be able to focus and hear about what we do.
Yeah.
And that, I would love to take credit for that. Les Schwab.
Okay.
I grew up in the Northwest.
Yeah.
And, tires, your life revolves around when you get your winter tires put on, your snow tires, your studded tires, and when you get summer tires, taken off and put back on. And every Les Schwab, who was a genius in marketing, had a popcorn machine.
Yep.
And so you walked in and
you smelled it.
Rubber tires and fresh popcorn.
There's a smell there that takes you
to
back.
This day, I can tell you what it tastes like or what it smells like.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
Olfactory is funny for me.
Olfactory is awesome. When you grow up selling something that people don't need, you are a carnival barker from the get-go. I mean, his age, I can tell you a $5,500 bronze because I'd done my fair share of time in a booth with my parents and hear the rhetoric over and over again.
The message.
And then you begin to pay attention, through osmosis, inadvertently, whatever you want to say, about the things that make you feel good, seen and heard when you go somewhere and you pick them up. So that's what this brand is carved out to be.
Well, do you have any maximum group sizes, or, I mean, you're kind of a small little place here. Do you try to limit that, or do you recommend people have reservations ahead of time or walk-ins?
If you want to make a reservation because you're of a personality that's much more organized than myself, you're welcome to do so. You're welcome to do so. We love that about you. Thank you. Unless you are a party of 8 or more, then it's kind of like, if you roll in here with 15 people,
sure,
it might take us
some arrangements might have to be made.
We're still going to get to you.
Sure.
We've had parties as big as 40.
Okay.
We just spill outside and we will close for private events if you've got the pocketbook to do so. And then our wine club parties is, we can fit 300 people on the site when utilizing it stem to stern.
And all the outdoors.
And all the outdoor area.
Gotcha.
Correct. But we also love people, if we're jamming and it's packed and there's 2 people in here, I'll walk in and say, hey, you don't mind doing the hokey pokey? I've got 2 more. These people are great. They're awesome. Get along. And you can kind of just get a feel for who might fit in the room. And people end up, as you know, talking with each other, finding all these things in common. They walk in as strangers, they walk out as confidants. And so I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We have a saying, and it's not ours, I don't know where it originated, but we utilize it. We branded it with some different artwork and whatnot, called It Takes a Vineyard and a Village. Mm-hmm. Because villages are super important.
Yeah.
And it's not nice. It's imperative that you recognize all the individuality within your villagers.
The community and contributions from everyone.
Correct. And we've gotten so strain-based.
Yeah.
And so remote and so clickable that we're losing out on the wealth and the beauty of having a strong village. So that's why our tasting rooms are in houses. It was deliberate because we just want you to feel like you're coming over.
At home, living room.
Correct. And having wine with friends.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, do you have any, what are your busier or slower seasons? What's the best time to come visit?
Oh, we're still slow. Do you see all these people driving by us? I mean, they have seen the wine country on the internet, and they are hell-bent to get to the palatial estates and the brands that look just like Napa, and the giraffes and the castles and the rhinos and the monkeys. Who knows? Because they want to drink some real wine. So they stop on Monday after they've seen our name on lots of people.
And they're on their way out.
Then your designated bottles. Yeah. So there's you're welcome here anytime. There's probably going to be a couch available for you.
Always going to be a spot for you.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, you mentioned a moment ago about your wine club. So what does your wine club look like?
We have 3 now.
Okay.
Our original was called Pay Dirt because everything we do comes right out of that dirt. We don't get paid until we grow it. Then we got a cease and desist from a brand in California. And we finally made it, right? You're making it. We started getting those cease and desist letters. And so we kind of chuckled and we inserted an R and call it Pray Dirt.
Oh, okay.
Because you can't be a farmer and not pray. Can't be a parent and not pray.
That's going to come up.
Yes. So Pray Dirt is our original wine club. It's capped.
Okay.
But we've never actually, I think twice in our life, we've hit the waiting list. But that's the one that includes 2 signature products from the farm. 20% off wines at all time, complimentary tasting or glass for you and 3 guests when you come in to either. And our benefits and perks spill to both properties. 10% off of lodging, because we have 3 technically now, 2 here and 1 in the High Plains. Lodging opportunities and 10% off of anything branded FHB merch. Again, it's important when our villagers go out and they support by wearing our brand.
Yeah.
So, and then we have our farmers market, and that's a you pick situation. So you can pick your 3 wines. If you're 3 rosés, if you're 3 multiple Tianos, it's just a 3 bottle minimum. And you can add those other perks on just for a fee.
Yeah.
And then Cultivated is our case club. And the case club gets all of those benefits plus a little bit deeper discount. They get 25%.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, which is, kind of near wholesale.
Can people sign up online, or do they have to come in?
They can. They can sign up online. I'll give you my cell number and they can sign up right now.
No, we won't dox you on that.
It's the whole world has it. Don't you worry.
So do you do any kind, so you've got these 2 tasting rooms, you've got all this, do you do any kind of distribution in any kind? So if people can't come here, is there a way for them to taste your wine?
We're small. We're self-distributed. But
Okay.
we did just get into the new Pullman market in San Antonio, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Huge compliment. They sought us out.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, we don't actively go out and seek distribution just because we're not manned or staffed for it. So what happens is usually people come in, they have a friend who's opening a small wine bar, or a relative. They tell them about it and then say, call them, you should go, or however. We're very organic in that way. We could do a better job, but, we got a lot of irons in the fire to begin with. And so.
Well, do you sell on your website so people could order that way if they
100%.
can't?
Yeah, we're not shipping right now.
Yeah.
Because of the heat.
Okay.
We take the summers off. We will, if you're a patient human and trust us to watch the weather, which is all we do as farmers. And we know there's cold front coming in and we can gain 10 degrees and we think it's safe based upon where your location is and what you're shipping. We will sometimes ship on a case-by-case basis.
Got you.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Or pun intended.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I love my puns.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for future growth? You talked about purchasing that vineyard. Now, as you shake your head no, as you just said, we just bought more, but do you have any plans to expand anything or other types of ways that you want to grow?
Not that we know of.
Okay.
But, in 2020, the guys brought home 800 head of sheep. So, because there was nothing going on in 2020.
Right.
So, and that has grown to 5,000 head of Dorfers, which we use in the vineyards.
Okay, yeah.
So never say never. I have been around long enough to know, never say never.
Right.
I don't see us growing. I see us plateauing, or in this soft market, maybe creating a smaller, maybe reducing.
Okay.
Reducing production, reducing our schedule, because we'll go anywhere and do anything. We say yes to everything. Just because I think we would like to, we're at our 8-year mark, and I'd always said I built a 10-year brand from the get-go. I just wanted to act like we were 10 years old on day 2 of being in business.
Right.
Because when we got to 10 years, I didn't want, I haven't watched it in 20 years. I've seen people be like, wow, we're sold out at 3,000 cases. People are mad they can't get our wine.
Yeah.
They want more. We could do this. If we added on here, we could do 20 more tables, and 20 more tables is X amount of revenue. And so
it turns into an engine.
It turns
and
into
a machine,
an engine.
Yeah.
And you never catch up.
Yeah.
You never catch up. And I don't want our family to make that same mistake.
Yeah.
And we saw Texas wine lover Jeff Cope wrote it this year about how many brands went out last year.
Yeah.
And it was a significant number. And so, if anything, I think I just want to educate the audience that we have, and make anyone who's willing to be more passionate about our original message.
Okay.
And that is, we are the growers. We grow fruit for the top 20 wineries in Texas. We sell 95% of what we grow to other people. We keep the 5% for ourselves. But you asked as a marketing question, how do we word that? And it's our mantra. We established it the first day, our tagline, and it's, we grow fruit that wine enthusiasts seek and that wineries designate with pride.
Yep.
And that's all I want people to know. That's
and everything else is secondary.
Yeah. Tracy and Anthony and Nicholas and I and our children and the 30 families that are in the vineyards and on the farm with us. That's what we want you to know about Farmhouse.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you care about where your food and your fiber comes from, and you want to have that conversation, or you want to taste that with unparalleled hospitality, then we're a good fit for you. Yeah.
Well, that leads us to the final question. And so, of all the places that people could go visit either here in the Hill Country or in High Plains or throughout Texas, what sets Farmhouse apart that really makes it somebody say, I have to put that at the top of my list. I want to go check this place out.
Sure. Our premium fruit made into premium wine.
Yeah.
And then the unparalleled hospitality.
All right.
Hospitality is.
Yeah.
I'm a stickler on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a stickler on it. My mother she just set the bar for welcoming clients with my dad and his art business. And then again, my partners, my family, my everything, they are raised to be humble and modest and just nose to the grindstone work and let the food and the fiber and the fruit speak for itself. And yeah, I will dismantle wine snobs for a sport. I find it wildly entertaining, but ultimately, well, I'm going to meet you on middle ground because I just want the product to speak for itself, you know? So I think, and we're going to splash you up until you find something that you like. You know, we're just not going to stay on the flight sheet or keep in mind. But like we opened that Reserve Syrah yesterday because I had these amazing people in from Pennsylvania that really knew their wines and drank wine. And that sucker is 8 years away from being ready. I mean, it was drinkable, but it wasn't knock your socks off.
Right.
You could talk, and not because it's poorly made, because it's made right. And she's not there yet.
Yeah.
You know? And so if you really want to talk about how wine is grown and made and the people who do it, we're the brand. We're only as good as our people who have their boots on the ground. And for us, that looks like our vineyard crew. Our vineyard crew is 98% female-led.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so the vine itself is female. Hey, come here. This is going to be your turn.
Yeah.
You know, anatomy-wise, truly, she is. She has a crotch. She gives birth.
Yeah.
And that's why vintages are notable and people geek out about them.
Uh-huh.
And a healthy vineyard has no holes, right?
Yeah.
We have cordons and wires and they lock arms and are the rockets. And so that is something that is really important to me. Giving credit and putting a face on the Mexican culture, like we talked about earlier, that is the reason we have wine on the North American continent. And so the families that work on the farm with us, not for us, I want their names to be known. I want their faces to be seen.
Yeah.
You know?
The true heart and soul of everything.
True heart and soul. Like we drive around, I'll say, and beat up white trucks with bald tires, and we worry about the debt, and it's our name on the debt, and ultimately there's no heavier weight to carry that. But the people who are going across those vineyards left to right in the sun and the rain and the sleet, those farmers need recognized.
What's your favorite part of what your mom does here?
Working in helping us grow.
Yeah.
We can make a lot of money.
Do you get to go out? Do you get to go out in the vineyard and work on the vines?
Kind of.
Yeah. Do you like to go harvest and cut the grapes? Yeah.
He grew up sampling with me in the front pack. And so when he was like 3 and 4, this kid's palate was razor sharp because he had tasted everything that year. And so I have a fun story. There was a client of ours, well, a friend of ours now, but she says, the first time I met you, you were rolling in a keg at the Mallet Event Center and you had a 3-year-old kid screaming, I want to taste the Tempranillo. I want to taste the Tempranillo. Mama, why won't you let me? And I was like, not drink in public. Yes. And so that's how she met McLean. But Paris. But then I abused him like anybody. I had a really great tool on my hands and I made him dance monkey and taste and nose wines and talk about him in front of people. And he got burned out.
Gotcha.
Burned out.
You just don't want to do it
Yeah,
anymore.
tired of it.
So now you'll nose the wine and you'll say, grapes. Right? Do you not do that?
You got to keep that inside. You can't share that with everybody.
What's your favorite tractor?
The 8295R.
Ah.
And would you rather plant, plow, or sand fight?
For
Yeah, me too.
no plant.
Plant? Really?
You like planting?
I'd rather sand fight. Or what does Daddy call a sand fighter?
The chicken. No.
Chicken picker? That's different. The chicken picker is different. Well, look at me. See, I get educated all the time. And of all the crops, cotton, peanut, wheat, watermelons, pumpkins, grapes, or sheep, what's your favorite?
Cotton.
You like cotton?
You like cotton best?
I love cotton too.
Mom, what's your favorite wine?
My favorite wine is when I'm drinking with people that I love and trust.
All right, it definitely takes a village, like you heard Katy Jane talk about in that interview. And you know what? Her commitment, not only to her families, we got to hear from one of their future proprietors, her son, McLean, her commitment to that family, as well as to her work, to the wine that she's making, to the whole operation there at Farmhouse, to their employees. That commitment is readily seen in her and in the products that they're providing there at Farmhouse Vineyards. It shines through. And that's what makes Farmhouse Vineyards one of the most respected growers of Texas grapes here in this amazing state and this amazing wine region we have. And don't forget, make sure to check out their website before you go visit. It's www.farmhousevineyard.com. There you're going to find some really cool stuff about their wine clubs that she talked about. You'll be able to see more history and information about the vineyard. You'll be able to see information about some of the other crops that they have. And they even have this really cool tab at the top for recipes where you'll find lots of really cool farm-to-table style recipes that are going to pair perfectly with the great wines that you're going to get there at Farmhouse Vineyards. Now, when I was there, I got to do a tasting of several of their amazing wines, and as usual, had such a hard time deciding what was my favorite because everything was so good. But I finally had to settle down on one, and I picked their 2019 Reserve Petite Syrah. So this was an amazing wine. If you get a chance to taste this or buy a bottle of this when you go, I highly encourage it. Had some amazing color to it. It's such a deep, rich color. It had some awesome dark fruit flavors with some smokiness kind of on the palate. It was so good that I had to definitely purchase that. And that became my wine library bottle for this episode. All right, well, that brings us towards the end. And so it's time for me to get ready to travel to even more great wine destinations to bring those to you. But before I go, would you consider becoming a supporter of the show? So your donations and your support really means a lot to me as I try to bring these awesome locations from all over Texas to you. And it's very easy to do for just a small one-time donation. Or if you're willing to join my Patreon, you can actually make small monthly donations to help support the show. And if you join the Patreon, you get some bonus materials there as well. But if you're interested in helping me in that way, if you just go to my website, it's www.texasundervine.com. Go to the very top, you'll see a link for Become a Patron. That will take you to my Patreon page where you can, again, either make a one-time donation or if you're so inclined, become a supporter of the show and get access to some of those great behind-the-scenes materials. Your support means a ton to me. I want to thank my current Patreon subscribers. As always, you have my heart. You know that you help make this show come out every 2 weeks. And so anybody that would like to join those ranks, just click that link, become a patron, and you'll get access again to all those behind-the-scenes materials. And if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, don't forget, like, follow, and subscribe, and leave a comment down below. So if you have not visited Farmhouse Vineyards, tell me in the comments what you're most looking forward to when you go see them. Or if you have been, what's your favorite thing about Farmhouse Vineyards? And let's get that discussion and comments going about this episode. And with that, my time is up. So don't forget, subscribe to the podcast and to my socials to be notified anytime a new episode is posted. And until then, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Howdy, Vine Trippers. Did you know that I now have a merchandise store for Texas Under Vine? I only have a handful of limited items, but you can go check those out and wear your Texas Under Vine swag if you'd like to tell all your friends about the great wine locations we have here in Texas and maybe get them interested in the podcast as well. So there are things like t-shirts, there's a hoodie, there's a beanie, a ball cap, things like that. But one of the most exciting things I have right now is my limited time offer t-shirt. That's my Season 1 t-shirt. So this is your Tasting Through Texas Under Vine Season 1 t-shirt. It's only going to be available for a little short amount of time. On the back, it has all the different locations like a band tour t-shirt. So this is a limited time item and you can go out and get it now. And one of the great things about that t-shirt is a portion of every sale goes to support the Texas Hill Country Winery Scholarship Fund. So you know that by buying that t-shirt, you're also investing in the growing and flourishing of an amazing wine industry here in Texas and all of those people that are going to come and make it even better. check out that merchandise store. It's on my website at texasundervine.com. Just go up to the top. You'll see the link for the merchandise store.